Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire supported by Glenlivet Books. Has the time come for India to repeal the law of contempt? And has the Attorney General made a terrible mistake in giving permission for the criminal prosecution of a cartoonist and a comedian for contempt? Those are two critical issues I shall raise today with India's former Attorney General and one of the country's most highly regarded lawyers, Mukul Rohatgi. Mr. Rohatgi, before I come to wider questions to do with the law of contempt, let me raise with you the present Attorney General's decision to give permission for Kunal Kamra, a comedian, and Rachita Taneja, a cartoonist, to be prosecuted for contempt. I'll take them one by one. First, Kunal Kamra. The two tweets that the Attorney General found offensive were, "Honor has left the building long back," referring to the Supreme Court. And secondly, the Supreme Court of this country is the most supreme joke of this country. In your eyes, does that amount to contempt, or is it better understood as satire, or perhaps as a reflection of the way the people of the country think?
Well, Karan, I have seen the tweets being in the legal profession, and I have also been the Attorney General in the past. In my view, the tweet of Mr. Kamra may be in bad taste, but I don't think it is contempt. And I think it's too small an issue to be taken note of. People in this country are entitled to speak their mind, express their feelings, maybe a little outspoken, maybe sarcastic, maybe in bad taste, but the shoulders of the court are broad enough. And you know, in everyday common talk, don't people say that most politicians are corrupt, most bureaucrats don't work, etc., etc. I mean, these are not things which one should take notice of. And in my view, the Attorney General should not have granted permission. These things come and these things go. But surely the Supreme Court's foundation must rest on much surer ground.
Let me quote to you what the Attorney General wrote when he gave permission for Kunal Kamra to be prosecuted. I'm quoting his words. "This is gross insinuation against the entirety of the Supreme Court of India that the Supreme Court of India is not an independent and impartial institution, and so too its judges, but on the other hand, is a court of the ruling party, the BJP, existing only for the BJP's benefit." Do you believe that these tweets amount to that?
I told you in the beginning, I don't think it is contempt. I have told you it may be completely outspoken, it may be completely wrong, but that does not make the Supreme Court any less supreme or any less glorious. A lot of people say things about other people, but you know, you shrug a shoulder and move away. I am reminded of the spy catcher article, which incidentally you have also quoted in your article. And I distinctly remember the photograph printed in the Daily Mirror, and the heading was "You Old Fools." And the caricature was that the three law lords, led by Lord Templeton, were shown upside down. There was a lot of furor, but they did not decide to take any contempt action. So these things happen. These things go by. You know, according to me, contempt is actually something which makes it impossible for a court to kind of function. There have been cases where people have thrown chappals and slippers at judges. Some contempt action was taken in an incident. But you know, even there, I would hesitate to take contempt action because it may be the outpouring of a frustrated litigant. And in this country, litigation goes on for generations. Take a case where a man is without job for 20 years, trying to get his job back. He throws a chappal at a judge. That is not throwing a chappal at an individual. It's kind of at the system that I am struggling for 20 years.
Okay.
So one has to see it in a broader light, with broader shoulders. And see, the court also functions in a public gaze. People are bound to say things. So I don't think one should have taken notice of these things at all. It's not a concerted attack, let's say, by a government against a court,
Okay.
or by a parliament against a court. It's not one of those, one small person here and there comes and says something and goes away. In fact, by taking notice, you are unnecessarily giving importance to something which should have just kind of been shrugged away.
So, in a nutshell, in a word, as far as the Kunal Kamra case is concerned, you believe the Attorney General made a mistake.
Yes.
Let's then come to the case of Rachita Taneja and her cartoons. Now, the first cartoon has a figure with a mic, presumably Arnab Goswami, saying to the Supreme Court while the BJP looks on, "Tu janta nahi, mera baap kaun hai." The second cartoon is a drawing of the Supreme Court with an orange flag, and the caption at the bottom says, "Sanghi Court of India." Now, are these cartoons in your eyes contempt, or are they satire and criticism?
I don't think it is contempt. It is definitely satire. I would say it is somewhat in a bad taste, because being a lawyer, I know that the Supreme Court has always remained impartial. It has had a glorious innings for the last 70 years, since 1950, when India became a republic. The only dark period of the Supreme Court, if I may say so, which has been acknowledged the world over by the court, by Indians, by politicians, is the dark period of the emergency. Now, suppose I was to say, or you were to say, that the Supreme Court did not take up cudgels against the government or acted as a stooge for the government during the dark period of the emergency, would that be contempt? Certainly not. Now, somebody feels that the Supreme Court is more executive minded today than it was, say, 50 years ago, or some decisions or a flurry of decisions have gone the way of the government. Somebody may have a wrong perception or whatever, but that certainly is not contempt, and we should not take any heed of these things.
Let me once again quote what the Attorney General said with reference to Rachita Taneja's two cartoons. Of the first cartoon, he said, "It creates the impression that BJP is somehow interested in protecting Arnab Goswami and has prevailed upon the Supreme Court to do so." Of the second cartoon, the AG said its intention is to denigrate the Supreme Court and lower its authority in the eyes of the public. You don't interpret the cartoons in this way, do you?
No, not at all. And I don't agree with the Attorney General's view. And let me tell you something, Karan. In the reference to Arnab Goswami's case is to the fact that it was taken up in the vacations and decided. In fact, I also appeared for one of the co-accused in that abetment to suicide. That is one of the businessmen. According to me, that case was completely trumped up. It was a bogus case by the state government, not only against Arnab, but the other people also. But let's forget the merits of the case. Now the question is, why was it taken up in the vacations? Why could it not wait for a couple of days? Well, it is a question. People have their own views. But my personal view is, it was rightly taken up, not because one particular individual is supposedly close to a ruling party, but the Supreme Court took it up because it was an affront to the freedom of the press, which is a cherished goal of the freedom of speech guaranteed by the Constitution. It's the highest freedom. The Supreme Court has repeatedly said freedom of speech and liberty. So to uphold liberty, not because of A or B or C concern, when a case came up that way, that somebody is being framed and freedom of press is under threat, then if you ask me if freedom of press is under threat, probably it's equal to 100 cases of normal bail where a person may be accused of smaller sentences. Therefore, it was rightly taken up. But somebody can have a perception, well, why did you take it up? You got millions of cases pending. But I mean, that how do they become contempt?
Absolutely. You're making a very important point, Mr. Rohatgi, which I will underline for the audience before I move on. You believe the Supreme Court was right to take up the Arnab Goswami case during the vacation, but it can still be legitimately questioned. As you said, that is a question people can have, and to raise that question is not contempt. So let me then sum up this by saying this to you. You readily admitted that the Attorney General had made a mistake in the Kunal Kamra case. Has he made a second mistake in the Rachita Taneja case?
Yes, and I stick by what I said.
In which case, let me put this to you. Should the Attorney General have borne in mind that the British media and American television comedians regularly ridicule and lampoon their Supreme Court? You quoted the British media in the Spycatcher instance that happened in 1987. More recently, in 2016, the Daily Mail, after the Brexit ruling, called the judges enemies of the people. In
Yes, I saw that.
America, Justice Kavanaugh is regularly ridiculed on television shows. But neither
Yes.
in America nor England is this considered contempt. Should our Attorney General, Mr. Venugopal, have been equally broad-minded and understanding?
Well, let me tell you, Karan, Mr. Venugopal is a very well-known, renowned, and an experienced lawyer. I hold him in the highest esteem as a lawyer. He has nearly 65 to 70 years of experience as a lawyer. But in this particular instance, I would disagree with him. I would lean in favor of freedom of speech unless it is a calculated attack in making the delivery of justice impossible. That is the real test. This is not one of those cases, and as you rightly said in your article, and I want to tell the audience, contempt law we have borrowed from the British. We have codified it in an act of 1972. In Britain, as you know, it was not codified. It was there for more than 100 years. They have abolished it. Now, I am not sanguine whether we should abolish it or not. I don't think it needs to be abolished in India. But the law is so framed that itself, it's an apology. In as much as the law says it will be used only as a measure or a last measure, only in extreme situation. Normally, if contempt is committed, apology must be accepted by the court. Please mark the words. It must be accepted by the court. Only if it is found that the apology is not in good faith will it be rejected. If an apology is made in the first instance and comes from the heart, the court is bound to accept. The punishment is maximum 6 months and the fine is maximum 2 months. Now, the law itself is in the form of an apology because it leans in favor of freedom to criticize, maybe outspoken, maybe satire. If the law is framed that way, as opposed to, let's say the Psychotropic and Narcotic Drugs Act, the law is framed in a harsh way. The moment you commit an offense which is of some sizable quantity, the minimum is 10 years. 10 years to 20 or life. That's the way that law is framed. It has hardly any escape route. Here the law is framed, as I said, as an apology, leaning towards freedom of speech in a democracy, where people have disparate, wrong, right ideas. So if that is the context and every action must be judged in terms of the law must be seen in terms of its context. If that is so, then I don't think it was a wholesome exercise of jurisdiction to have granted consent.
One more question about the Kunal Kamra Rachita Taneja cases before I broaden and talk briefly about the law of contempt itself. There is a growing feeling that what really emerges from the Kunal Kamra and Rachita Taneja cases is the fact that the present Attorney General doesn't have a sense of satire or humor, and that perhaps his thinking is not in step with the mood of the country. Would you agree with that?
I won't agree with that, Karan, because I know Mr. Venugopal very well. I've been in the profession for 40 years and I have met him innumerable times every day in court. He does have a sense of humor and he's a very well-rounded personality. He's a very well-read person, and I wouldn't agree with that. But certainly our views, mine and his, I would say, differ on this issue.
Let's then at this point broaden our discussion and talk about the law of contempt. As you pointed out yourself a moment ago, the law of contempt is centuries old British law, which was abolished in Britain in 2013. At the time when the British Law Commission recommended abolition, this is what it said. It said the intention of the law was preventing the public from getting the wrong idea of judges, but it added, where there are shortcomings, it's equally important to point out that the law prevented the public from getting the right idea. In other words, the British Law Commission was saying the law of contempt actually ended up protecting judicial corruption, and therefore it clashed with transparency and it also clashed with freedom of speech. Would you agree with this wider contextual?
I wouldn't agree with it insofar as it says about law of corruption, etc. Because the rules of corruption in this country are also very, very strict. We've had cases of corruption in the judiciary also. In fact, a case is still going on in the Supreme Court, which is very old, against the Bhushan, the father and son lawyers, of having said that there are corrupt judges in the Supreme Court, etc. But I would say that in India, we are not yet ripe or a mature enough democracy to abolish the law of contempt. As it is, contempt in these kind of scenarios is very rarely used. And you must know, and your viewers must know, Karan, that contempt also includes, to a great extent, violation of a court's order. So if there is a court order, say about a house, between two warring parties, one is in possession, and the court passes an order that you will not hand over possession to anybody else without the leave of the court, and the person does so, then he is guilty of contempt because he violated a court's order. So our major law of contempt is a breach of an injunction by a court. That is 9/10 of the law, so to say. This issue of contempt which you and I are discussing today is not even 1.1%. So we can't abolish the law of contempt for the reason that I have given. The whole system of justice will collapse if people don't obey orders and disobey it with impunity, knowing that there is no recourse. Then the whole system will fail. But as far as what we are discussing is only a 0.01% kind of a situation. So law of contempt has to be there. Our law of contempt has nothing to do with corruption.
Okay.
And therefore it is required to be there.
I understand your point, Mr. Rohotri. You're saying 90% of the time when the law of contempt is used, it's used because someone has violated a court order, not because the court has deemed that its honor has been besmirched by some comment or action by an individual.
Absolutely right.
Let me then, in that context, quote to you what one of Britain's greatest judges, Lord Denning, master of the rolls, said about the law of contempt way back in 1968. And he said this roughly some 50 years before Britain actually abolished the law. These were his words. Let me say at once that we will never use this jurisdiction as a means to uphold our own dignity, nor will we use it to suppress those who speak against us. We do not fear criticism, nor do we resent it, for there is something far more important at stake. It is no less than freedom of speech itself. It is the right of every man, in parliament or out of it, in the press or over the broadcast, to make fair comment, even outspoken comment, on matters of public interest. We must rely on our own conduct itself to be our own vindication. Do you think that is advice our judges should follow when people like Kamra or Taneja or others criticize, lampoon, or ridicule them?
Undoubtedly. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. I am a lawyer, I work within the system. I do cases for clients. My father was a lawyer before me. I have seen the legal system from a time much before I became a lawyer. I used to see my father go to court. Then I saw my father became a judge. So it's kind of been around in our family, maybe 60 years or 70 years. Now I have found, and everybody will tell you, if you see the statistics, that for a variety of reasons, a property case or a case involving some kind of rights, a company dispute, commercial disputes, intellectual property disputes, take years and years in our country. 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades. If it takes so much time and generations pass, would not there be frustration amongst the litigants who use the system? And if they use the system and are frustrated with the system, and the long delays are not because of the court system alone, it is because of the nature of our laws. We have four appeals in every case. It's because the lawmakers, the babus who make the actual law, are not really well trained in making a law. A difference between a comma and a full stop can make a world of a difference to a man of words and go up to the Supreme Court, whether a comma or a semicolon, stuff like that. So if you have those kind of laws which are not properly drafted, you have a system by which you have innumerable appeals, you have a system by which a lot of good lawyers don't want to become judges, you have a system by which persons who become judges at the first level ultimately rise by virtue of seniority and may not strictly be on merit. If there is an amalgam of so many features, the result of which is that it takes 20 to 50 years for one litigation to end, and you have a host or millions of people who are frustrated, and they say that the administration of justice in this country has failed with the Supreme Court at the apex, then what? Do you think it is contempt? It's something like that.
Basically, people have a right to ventilate their frustration and anger, and doing so is not contempt.
Yes.
I'm coming to the end of this interview. You've made it clear, Mr. Rohatgi, that in your opinion, India is not as yet ripe or mature enough for the law of contempt to be abolished, and you explained why. Let me therefore put this to you. Is there a need for judges to bear in mind, particularly Supreme Court judges, that their court is supreme because it's final, not because it's infallible? And secondly, at the same time, should they also bear in mind that judges deliver justice, they don't embody it, and therefore they shouldn't take themselves too seriously?
I entirely agree. And your first comment about infallibility, Karan, has been said by the Supreme Court itself. Because let me tell you, and I am in courts every day, and I can give you a large number of examples. If the same cause is brought between different benches of the Supreme Court on the same day, the result will and can be and surely well nigh be different. So because justice is delivered not by artificial intelligence but by a human being, you may feel because the law is never absolutely black and white, there are grays. You may feel that let this rest with the High Court. Why should the Supreme Court interfere? Another judge on the same day, on the same facts, may feel no, the High Court has made a horrendous mistake, we must interfere. And I tell you, if there was a court above the Supreme Court, then that court would also reverse decisions of the Supreme Court as the Supreme Court reverses of the High Court, and the High Court reverses of the district judge, and the district judge reverses of the Munsi.
There is a wonderful corollary to that enlightening answer that you've just given me, Mr. Rohatgi. What you're saying is judges should also remember they are human beings. Do not presume to act as gods who judge the rest of us. Remember, you're human as well.
Absolutely right. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this interview. And thank you in particular for speaking so openly. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay safe.